Hi everyone, welcome to another episode. Today we have, I think, a very special guest. हम लोग पिछले बहुत अरसे से जब स्टार्टअप्स की बिजनेसेस की बात करते हैं तो बहुत कम आई थिंक सक्सेस स्टोरीज हमें नज़र आती हैं. सो दिस कंपनी स्टार्टेड बैक इन 2006 एंड 7 के आसपास और अभी माशाल्लाह पाकिस्तान का पहला यूनिकॉर्न. वी हैव ज़ीशान साहब टुडे, सो थैंक यू सो मच.
थैंक यू, माय प्लेजर.
एक तो आई थिंक सबसे पहले हम लोग देखते हैं कि बहुत ज़्यादा आप नज़र नहीं आते. यू लाइक वेरी लाइक थोड़ा सा छुप के you're just focusing on work.
Spot on, Talha. You would see that people who are often working very hard, you rarely get to see them. So you spot on. We stay busy. I think the idea is keep adding value and keep focusing on problem solving, and that takes 100% of your time.
Yeah.
So everything else is what you earn or what you enjoy and all that. So उसकी वजह से थोड़ी सी इतनी presence नहीं होती. And as we've expanded over the last few years, so obviously the workload keeps increasing, the dynamics keep changing, the global climate and all of that. So ever so busy, right?
Because I've seen like generally जो sort of startup culture, especially पिछले 4-5 सालों से develop हुआ है. So it's a very वो एक I think वो इतना वो cool और वो sexy सा लोगों ने बना दिया ना, like wherever you go in the events there's like same faces you see. और मैं तो अक्सर ये सोचता हूँ कि यार अगर आप हर वक्त घूम फिर रहे हैं फेसबुक पे चीज़ें डाल रहे हैं तो what time are you guys working?
I can only say that you're once again you're spot on. 2 out of 2, right? So that's the problem, right? Because शुरू के दिनों में you have to शुरू के get throughout, right?
Yeah.
One misconception here is that as the business grows, maybe you can relax more, right?
Yeah.
Which is so untrue. As the business grows, your responsibility are probably doubling or tripling, and then you have to put in more effort. I think the projection, what we see in movies, what we see on social media versus the ground reality, right? And don't fall for that. Especially in a country like Pakistan where you have problems to solve at work and 50% of your problems are not even related to your work, they're external problems. Crisis, as I said, dynamics, what's happening, kabhi dharne, kabhi protest, kabhi kuch change, kabhi kya change, kabhi FX loss. So I totally can understand what you're saying. Yes, you still have to keep the culture like that, so if you can maintain a culture where you have a family-like culture, on a scale, even that's very difficult. This is a separate discussion, why it's difficult to maintain that. So you can say some part of it is true, but not what we saw in V crashed, right? That's very different. We still have to work, and productivity is the big thing nowadays, right? तो उस वजह से आई थिंक आप सही कह रहे हैं कि वो इतना सेक्सी होता नहीं है, जितना दिखाया जा रहा होता है. And then you add drama to it and flavor to it, and that's what we see.
I think वो ये वो Netflix की सीरीज देख के और मूवीज देख के ना we feel like पता नहीं क्या चीज़ होगी, but when you go into the thing it's just like
so I feel अगर आप काम में passion add कर दें and you give a purpose to people, what am I going to solve, why I'm doing this, and if you can define that very strongly, then you will see the difference that people actually don't have to be moving around with a cup of coffee in their hand and chit-chatting. Then they're focused on work and they enjoy that more so. But if you're not able to define the purpose or even short-term milestones, then it gets very difficult. Then you see what you see on Netflix, right?
Yeah. So before we go forward, I wanted to understand a little bit of your background. Sure. So your father was in army. वहाँ से शुरू हुआ. So सबसे पहले तो आप फौज में नहीं गए, because that's a typical sort of a thing, in the Fauji families.
So I think typical and not so typical, right? See, army is a tough life as well, and I think often we can mistake it for कि जी आप आर्मी में चले गए हैं तो चलें बच्चे भी इसमें जाएंगे, especially as you climb up the ranks. So my father retired as a brigadier, but he held a few very good posts, right? DMO ops there, DMO plans there, which are quite prestigious posts. और उस जगह पे I saw him working, and the kind of effort he was putting in versus if you talk about financial returns and all that, probably it's not at par at what you can accomplish otherwise. But still have a lot of respect for army, still have a lot of respect because I belong to that army family. Not only that, I think a lot of stuff that happens behind the scenes we don't get to see that. We didn't go into that because we were more ambitious and more prone towards the business side. So families on both the sides, my mother, there were strong few businessmen, and they were the source of inspiration.
Sorry.
And father's direction was also somewhat that effort versus return is always what you should focus on. So it's your life plan and see what you want to do. And we went to UK. My parents actually did get divorced in between, right? So we shifted to UK in that process. And
और आप कितनी
the
एज
journey
थी उस टाइम
started.
आपकी?
I was probably 16 or
Okay.
so, right? 16, 17. So I just finished my FSC second year. I'm probably the only person in Pakistan जिसने FSC भी किया और A levels भी किया हुआ है.
सही.
So I know the flavor on both the sides. And when we shifted to UK, then the journey on that side started. It was education initially, obviously, and then
And you studied.
So I did chemical engineering, masters and bachelors in one go. It was a 4-year course at Imperial College London, and quite a tough course, I would say, because लोग कहते हैं यूनिवर्सिटी जाएंगे enjoy करेंगे.
Yeah.
तो मुझे तो पढ़ाई याद है कुछ खास याद नहीं है. लेकिन I think engineering itself probably is a big thing for all of us three brothers, how it has shaped us in terms of problem solving. So I often say that you mix it up with business, and that's the best combination. I would always want my children to become engineers first,
Interesting.
then get MBA or something, and that combination is lethal.
But did you select it खुद से engineering or was it like?
So I was really this is on the lighter side. So I was so when I did my FSC, मेरे एक होते थे Sir Aslam, Sir Syed College, Islamabad, Pindi, right? And I got tuition from him, and I was super good at chemistry. So when I went to UK and did my A levels over there, I would be so good that the class wouldn't even compete with me, right? So I would probably ace most of the papers. तो मैंने कहा यार केमिस्ट्री को परस्यू करना है, राइट? तो केमिस्ट्री को परस्यू करना है, तो अगर केमिस्ट्री को परस्यू करूँगा तो उसमें तो there's not going to be many returns, and I want engineering mix. So that's why I shifted to chemical engineering. Not taking a deep dive into the subject as such, chemical engineering is mostly physics then chemistry, right? And I found out within the first few classes कि अब मैं physics की side पे आ गया हूँ. But engineering, it was totally all of us, right? It was totally our choice what we want to do. And chemical engineering, probably the engineers are the highest paid engineers, right, per se. So that was kind of a determining factor, okay. And I also was into chemistry. Process engineering was like one of my favorite subjects. So कोई pressure नहीं था, कोई family का pressure नहीं था.
But उस time haven't you thought like doing जैसे BBA like or something like business वाली side पे?
नहीं. So business was, I would say, in the veins. Always thought about कि कुछ करना है अपना, and probably had that thing because when I was doing my when I was at university as well, so I did 1 or 2 ventures, online ventures, whilst at university, right? So I always had this thing that going to probably do something of my own, but at the same time, I think it was more of learning ourselves than there being a mentor who's telling us what to do, right? Now, what that does is it gets your true potential out, but at the same time, obviously, you can make mistakes or you might be off track for some time. So I guess, didn't care too much about, you see most of the dropouts become big businessmen, right? So didn't care too much about what I'm going to study and how it's going to help me build business. We have been, us brothers, all of us, we've been problem solvers. So problem solvers, naturally the shift was towards engineering. And then the business flavor we learned on the field.
Or uni maybe you said you did like some कुछ
जी हाँ वहाँ वो there was an IT boom in those days in UK, and everyone wanted to set up a website. So I did a little bit of online trading, did set up a website and started building up a downline of people. So it was kind of a scheme where you would actually get paid for surfing online. Remember those days, right?
Yeah.
Back in the days, and now you'll make decent amounts of money. So as a student, what do you say? You say, okay, let's get going, right? So I started building up a downline on different platforms, and I had probably downline of about 4,000 to 5,000 people under me, right? The businesses, the models collapsed because they couldn't keep the business intact. How much you're going to pay because the downlines are going to be so massive. But that did teach me a lot of stuff, like how to go about building up. And then when people found out in university कि मुझे website बनानी आती है, so I became the go-to place, right? और फिर मैंने अपनी society की website बना दी, chemical engineering की Imperial College.
And did you start charging as well?
Not really. It was more of maybe building up friends and connections more so than charging people. But a lot of people would come to me and say, and it wasn't very difficult. I just learned Dreamweaver in those days, and I started deploying this. But it was so unknown to people, and it was like uncharted territory. So people would come to you for advice and all. फिर वो करते, I did that in my second year and got a flavor of it, made some money, lost some money and all that. But I think that was a good starting point trying to get into it. And I did suffer in my second year a little bit as well, right, as far as education is concerned. But it was kind of a starting point, getting the real flavor of it, right?
And at that time also, like, did you also have like which inspiration around you at that time when you were a student? Like any, I don't know, family member, anyone you look up to?
Okay,
yeah, was it like coming internally?
when you're young, right? And I'm sure you were second all the audience who's they're listening to us, right? So they were second this. I think the key driving factor is, okay, I want to make something big. I want to earn more, and I want to make more money, right? That's the key driving factor, right? Okay, how can I be independent and do something of my own? So person not following anyone. Obviously family में कुछ लोग थे जिनको आप look up करेंगे, consult भी कर लेंगे, but generally speaking it was more of having that adventurous mind and looking at, okay, let's do this. Didn't even know about fundraising or anything at that point in time, but it was more so I want to do something which I am in control of and see what I can do and what's my capability. So we probably started that way. And later on, जब university खत्म हुई and we actually started business, so probably that's one of the reasons we had I had experienced it, so I knew that there is a lot of scope. And early days, I figured out that if you can package and have the right kind of perception, then you can practically sell anything, right? So I have a few stories of that as well. I became a power seller on eBay for some time, right, in UK, and there's a lot of stuff happening in those days. And then my brother and we, started this venture, so this.
There were a lot of things like. So you graduated. So you finished your uni in
2002.
Sahi. So uske baad next step was.
So 2002 I finished, and then so there was kind of a market slump, right? And obviously one thought was, let's get an engineering job. I had done an internship with Jacobs Engineering, so I had kind of an offer from there, but didn't pursue that. And then later on I said, okay, let's get a job and at the same time see if there is something I can do on the side. So I was applying for jobs. It was kind of a lull period, right? Not much happening. I think 5,000 लोगों के interviews होते थे, 100 में से होते थे filter. I remember going through the whole cycle with Thames Water, and in the end एक position available थी, और वो भी वो जो आप नहीं करना चाहते थे. So I said, this is an opportunity to see what else can you do, and started selling on eBay in between, so just learning. So I wasn't wasting time totally कि अच्छा job के लिए pursue कर रहे हैं तो साथ साथ ये भी करें.
और क्या, what were you selling?
I was selling X goods, right? So mostly, most of the stores, when they can't sell stock, it goes out in auction, or it goes to specific companies. Then they liquidate that at dirt cheap prices. Now it could be category A, B, C, or अगर आप category A के goods ले रहे हैं तो they are like purely refined, मतलब उसमें chances अच्छे हैं कि अच्छी चीज़ें निकल आएंगी, electronics and all that. C में ले रहे हैं तो maybe you might need to get them repaired. So I used to order pallets, big pallets. वो पूरे pallets आ जाते थे उसमें से, if you're lucky then the margins are 100%. Let's say over order आपने किया हुआ है 5,000 pound का, 3,000 pound का आपने कुछ order किया और उसमें margins 100% भी होते हैं. And if you're unlucky then the margins are going to be low, about 20%, 30%. And you could probably place them on eBay. And then that's when I learned, and this is probably a message for everyone, that दुनिया को जो चीज़ समझ आती है ना जी, वो seeing is believing वाली चीज़ है. If you can have the right kind of perception and packaging, you can practically sell anything in life. And I remember in those days, I did an experiment. So I was, because selling on eBay, so I said, okay, मैं एक दोस्त था पाकिस्तान में, मेरे से कहा यार आप आ रहे हो मेरे लिए ना एक अच्छा सा marble chess set ले आना, right? I just want to test out the market what it's like. So वो एक chess set ले आया और साथ उसके एक stand था, wooden stand, वो ले आया, right, handmade. So total cost maybe 1.5 pounds. And I had learned flash photography, right? Flash के ऊपर मैंने अच्छी सी उसकी एक album बनाई, सब कुछ बना के, and I posted on eBay. And I remember, the margins for that sale were about 70 times, right? So I sold it for 70 pounds roughly.
Wow.
Right? That's the highest price. Typical going price was 15 pounds. And I read a guide or two, and I figured out how you should package your stuff, how you should market it and all. So I think these experiments, and they teach you a lot, right? And then you figure out, okay, what needs to be done and how the world works, right? So yeah, so did that for some time. At the same time, we were looking at a few other options, right? So we started this website in UK. It used to be called Wholesale Pages. It doesn't exist anymore. And that's what me and my brother, we got together and we did that. It was more of an online
directory,
kind of a directory connecting people, right? You get the idea, right? So bringing buyers and sellers together onto a platform.
जैसे वो yellow page type.
Yellow page type, but a little more, right? So you could little bit like I would say Alibaba kind of a model, right? Didn't have the feeds coming in from the wholesalers, but we were actually so what happened was, when we were selling on eBay, we said, okay, एक काम करते हैं यार, let's, computers were like hot items and there were good margins in the computer industry. So we said, okay, let's source computers and sell them online. A lot of people were doing that, especially in US, not so much so in UK. But we started looking for suppliers, couldn't find suppliers at all. So we said, okay, what next, right? So we went to exhibitions and all that. We found some good source of suppliers, but nothing was available online. We said, okay, let's package this and put it online. And then, the people who are looking for such information can actually come in and then put a price tag to it, right, to access the information. So that's what we did. Little I knew that business was, probably because there was no information available. So people were hungry for such information. A lot of people wanted to set up their own startups and business and all that. So we started with this directory online, which then changed into more like a platform. And from the platform, we started sourcing feeds from wholesalers and all that. And the business actually grew pretty well. So that was our first proper business.
लेकिन eBay वाली साइट को क्यों आपने वो उस तरह नहीं किया? Because you were seeing there was a lot of potential.
हाँ जी, eBay में potential था, but equally competition भी होता है, right? And yes, I was a power seller within 6 months, but the margins are thin. And what kind of a business you can build out of it, there's going to be a limitation unless you're a manufacturer or producer yourself, right? So if you're the middleman, then you have to, if you want to do better than what you're doing, in the sense that margins and numbers, then you have to scale up and you have to go into that. That's practically kind of in a different way, but that's what we did, right? So we learned a lot. That's, you say, people often say, बहुत लोग आते हैं पूछते हैं, ये आइडिया कहाँ से आया आपको? तो आप आइडिया पे बात हमेशा करते हैं, आइडिया आपको कहीं से आता नहीं है, it evolves, right? It builds over time, and you build up some expertise. Then you look at what you can do, and then you keep improving on your expertise, and you keep pushing for the right kind of niche and market. But अगर आप कहें कि मैं घर बैठे बैठे पहली रात अच्छा यार मुझे याद आ गया और मैंने अगले दिन सुबह उठ के कर दिया, it doesn't work like that. I think for anyone, right? That's what I would say. And we have so many examples of this, right? People start with what when you look at their autobiography. Yes,
it's evolution basically.
Evolution, हाँ जी, तो वो.
और वहाँ से फिर ज़मीन तक कैसे पहुँचे?
So ज़मीन तक इसलिए पहुँचे क्योंकि पाकिस्तान में बड़े हुए थे, तो and there was always an idea that we want to go back to Pakistan, and work in the country or do something for the country. So that was, I think that's where probably that army angle comes in, right? And also I guess you go abroad, even if you make it big, our business was doing pretty good, right? We had good margins, 70-80% margins, so naturally we should have kept expanding on that side. But there was an affiliation and love for the country, for the people, and a lot of people told us, क्या कर रहे हो यार, मतलब क्यों जा रहे हो वापस, क्या करोगे? But it was more of an equation of it's just that you just feel connected. You feel that this is what you are, right? And this is where you were born, so this is where you belong. So पाकिस्तान में हम सब उस ज़माने में, आपको सबको पता है, जब कोई भी बंदा पाकिस्तान में बड़ा हुआ तो उसने घर से लेके डाइनिंग टेबल से लेके बाथरूम से लेके एवरीवेयर एक ही चीज़ सुनी होती है, प्रॉपर्टी, राइट? एंड बिकॉज वी हैड द IT touch, so we said, okay, this is one niche that we can tap into, and we started out both in Pakistan and simultaneously almost in UAE at the same time. And we set up this portal. It wasn't our I would say it wasn't a business idea back in 2005-06. It was more of a cost center, kind of something which will grow organically over time. And we'll see when the market is ready, because the internet in Pakistan was 256K in those days. And 256K जो सुबह आता था शाम को नहीं आता था, तो आपने कैसे काम करना था? So we did set up our back end for our UK business, and at the same time we were looking at doing this.
But at that time, did you move back या वहाँ से ये
So we're moving back and forth. And we thought this would be a semi-back end kind of venture which we'll set up and which will mature over time. Time का पता नहीं चला कब वो थोड़ा बहुत हमेशा से था कि वापस तो आना है at a certain point in time और यहाँ पे आके काम करना है, but टाइमिंग का नहीं पता था वो कब हिट करेगा. But because we started moving from Dubai, Pakistan back all the way, we did set up a company in Dubai in between. So we were like, okay, यहाँ पे कर रहे हैं, काम कर रहे हैं, करते करते we thought, okay, this is where we are, this is what we need to do.
So when did you realize, like, what was the point? Yeah, what was the event that you realized? Yeah, this.
I think
is
there wasn't
something.
a very long time in the process, right? So I would say practically within the first 6 months,
Okay.
right? We knew, okay, because IT की एक beauty थी, अब उतनी नहीं है, which is that you can sit anywhere and run up an IT business, right? And online, because you could generate online sales, and gradually online needs an offline flavor as well, which I can talk about as we come to Zameen. तो वो जो online वाला angle था, उसमें we realized that we could be sitting in Dubai or Pakistan and managing the UK business. So we said, okay, if we can do that effectively, then we can spend more time here rather than over there and see what else we can do here. So Zameen, we at one point in time had almost 100 websites, right? Different angles. We did set up a very small cars website. We had a Muslim dating kind of a website we were working on. We never launched it. We had a lot of directories that we had launched online.
And this was with a span of what, 3-4 years?
This was probably a year and a half,
Wow.
year and a half, right?
How did you do like 100 websites?
Yes, so
Like, do you have a team? Yeah.
we did have a team here.
Okay.
We have an IT team, and we are young. We were doing a 70% margin business.
Sorry.
So we said, we literally thought, and that's probably, you learn from your mistakes. And this is where you need some kind of mentorship, right? Or from the right people. आपकी सोच इतना डेवलप होती है कि मैं जिस चीज़ को हाथ लगाऊंगा वो सोना बन जाएगी, which doesn't happen, right? And you think, okay, because you have limited time. And one message I always give to my teams, to everyone, is that this is the only commodity that we don't have enough of. Everything else is an output. So अगर आप अपने टाइम की यूटिलिटी सही तरह यूज़ नहीं करते और उसको आप डी फोकस होकर हर जगह पे जाके आप ट्राई कर रहे हैं, so you're bound to lose focus and drive from what is your core. And so hence, we started, everything we did got some results. Sometimes we got really good results as well, but at the expense of the other business, right? And that's when we realized that this is not practical, this is not going to happen, and we learned the lesson pretty early, right? So 3-4 saal into the business, we had figured out कि ये नहीं चलेगा, right? So we need to consolidate and focus on 1 or 2 particular niches. And Pakistan में real estate asset class के अलावा तो आप, this is probably the best niche you can focus on. So
but why do you think this is the best niche in Pakistan? मतलब
there is globally, right? Real estate is a need, is a necessity, is an investment, and everything combined, right? So any necessity based business is a strong niche you can be in, right? Now why real estate in Pakistan? Because real estate की पाकिस्तान के अगर आप थोड़ा सा understand करेंगे तो it has never seen a crash, right? It has seen corrections. And real estate, the way it's structured in Pakistan is a cash-based kind of a business model. We don't have the mortgage market, so we don't have the volatility that you see in international markets. And if you study most of the businesses, the likes of McDonald's and all that, they are not a fast food business, they're a real estate business, right? Everyone knows that. School businesses में जाएंगे तो they're a real estate business. So every business somewhat is focused on real estate. And it clearly defines that niche as the key niche. Pakistan की market तो even और fundamentals बहुत strong है यहाँ पे, right? आपकी क्योंकि cash based है तो market doesn't see a crash, it becomes more of a hedge. Now at the moment, it's even a hedge against default, right? If you think of it that way. So it's a hedge against saving your currency value or saving your investment and making sure that you can weather any storm. तो वो खैर इतनी knowledge उस time पे नहीं थी, but ये पता था कि this is
something
what
which
we have
is,
heard. माँ बाप ने भी ये बात की, बच्चों ने आगे पीछे जा बैठेंगे, ये बात हो रही है, तो this is something. And we figured out the business model in UK in those days. UK में we had fish for homes था और 2-3 portals से हमने वहाँ पे study किए हुए थे, तो we knew कि this is a model that can be replicated, and although the dynamics on the ground are going to be different, but this can be replicated in Pakistan.
और उससे पहले have you came across any similar website in Pakistan?
नहीं जी, जब हमने start किया था तो maybe 1 or 2 people out there, but they were like random websites where nobody was putting in a conscious effort to structure it as a portal. And the odd thing is the media groups were not also focused on, and typically most of the portals you would see globally they're backed up by media groups. पाकिस्तान में मीडिया भी आपके उस तरफ नहीं फोकस कर रहा था और बाकी भी कोई इतना खास nothing much on the ground when we started. So and the challenge in an emerging market, अब तो वो challenge कम होगा, is that it's very fragmented and distributed, right? You don't have an address or a postcode. We literally had to draw out Pakistan,
Yeah.
right? कि जिस गुलबर्ग में search करनी है, या we had to map all of it.
Wow.
We had to structure all of it. New categories, locations, subcategories, क्या होंगी, कैसे होएगा. Initial early days, we had a survey team of about 4 to 5 people, and they used to go on their bikes, right? Quetta तक गए, Quetta के आगे छोटे छोटे इलाकों में भी गए. We surveyed every single city.
So शुरू में when you started ज़मीन, उस टाइम कितने लोग थे आपके पास?
देखिए शुरू में for the first few years, I would say till we started putting investment back into the business, it was a very small team, about 6 to 7 people.
Okay.
A few engineers who were actually working on the platform. It was a cost center, so there was no revenue stream. We hadn't monetized it, very little monetization on some credits, but packages and everything was free. So it was kind of getting the traction and capturing the market in an organic manner. We're getting them used to the portal, and for I think literally about 2 to 3 years there was no monetization on the portal.
सही. और जो इन्वेस्टमेंट थी शुरू की वो भी सेल्फ जो आपने बाकी जगहों से किया
That
था,
was,
did you get any sort of investor?
Ji, we raised kind of an angel, Gilles Blanchard. He was the co-founder of Sologer.com, which got sold out for almost €1 billion, dollars, I guess. But so he then joined General Atlantic, and he was looking for merger and acquisition options. And that's when he came on board in his own personal capacity, because Pakistan market wasn't ready to get VCs in at that point in time. So he came in as an angel. We partnered with him in the sense that we raised the first capital together. So we did our part, he did his part, we combined our funds and we deployed the first capital and started building up on the sales front. That's until 2010 and 11. That's when we started putting our sales teams on the ground. और उसके बाद हम लोगों ने फिर उसको offline flavor, मतलब so there was purely online. We were getting some credits being sold online, some funds coming in, but it was a very small amount, right? And then we said, okay, this is not. I mean, it's kind of an IT-enabled online business, but you still need your offline teams to reach out to agencies and get the classifieds, ads, and all that coming. And there was a lot of learning in that process after that, right? So that's when it started.
और उस टाइम भी I think अभी भी generally when you think about property तो सबसे पहले property dealers आपके जहन में आते हैं. मतलब आप किसी भी जगह पे चले जाएं.
Sure.
How did you sort of उस पूरा जो ecosystem है उसके साथ how did you sort of cope up with?
देखिए शुरू के challenges तो बहुत enormous थे, right? Because internet penetration, I think 14 में आपका 3G और 4G आया है, तब जाके थोड़ा इंटरनेट की सही penetration होना शुरू हुई. उससे पहले it was just landlines और maybe आपने ISDN लगवाया हुआ था and DSL connections and all that. So it was difficult, right? And हमारे typically globally भी ये होता है कि most of the community that goes into the real estate business, agents and agencies, there is no specific diplomas or degrees that they take in university. So there's a lot of money in this sector, but yet there is no
formal.
अब थोड़ा सा structure change हो गया है. Now you might get some courses और typical जो authorities होती हैं आपसे courses कराती हैं. But उस ज़माने में तो
But अभी भी हैं कोई courses like
अभी पाकिस्तान में तो छोटे-छोटे कुछ होंगे, but nothing specific as such.
अभी तक universities में भी I don't think
नहीं properly अभी तक किसी ने इसको address नहीं किया. We do get reached out at times कि जिस पे कुछ हम बना लें, कुछ courses बना लें, and we've had 1 or 2 discussions, but अभी तक कोई proper structured उस पे कोई ऐसे नहीं है course के जिसको proper as a course पढ़ाया जाए. And it's kind of ironic, right? Because this is such a big industry, but nobody is teaching anyone to get into this industry. And I think it's a lack of education which still exists. But उन दिनों में तो आप भूल ही जाए ना जी कि किसी को idea था कि हमने, because you're transiting, you are saying I am totally offline, I have to go online, and online की जो domain है उसमें जो basic knowledge भी नहीं है आपको. As an agent, you don't even know how to put an ad onto the website. So the challenges in early days were कि इनको पहले सिखाना है, इनको ऑनलाइन लेके आना है, एंड उसके लिए वी हैड अ बिग ऑपरेशंस टीम. टिल डेट वी हैव इट, बट इट वाज मैसिव. हमारे कोई 300-400 बंदे थे ऑपरेशंस के. They would go, so we had multiple touch points. They would go online, offline. They would reach out to the agency. We would collect their listings on a piece of paper via the system. on a call. So there was a separate call team, which would calling team, leech team, where we used to call it, right? They would call the agents and collect their listings, and there was a whole process to this madness, right? And how are we going to get them educated and push them online? So I think there's a lot of effort and investment going into that, and that's why for the first 8 to 9 years, the portal didn't even break even. There was investment going in, because the classified industry or the agencies were so used to using newspaper as their best medium, right? And उनको तो ये काम समझ में भी नहीं आता था. तो वो emails आती थी, तो I remember we would check our open rates. तो email के open rates इतने low होते थे, right? They wouldn't open their emails because they were used to the phone. और वो phone पे उस जमाने में email भी सही नहीं आती थी, right? तो वो उनको फिर हमने ईमेल जब भी आती थी उनको SMS चाहता था कि आपकी ईमेल आई, आप ईमेल खोल लें. तो we did innovate as we were building this.
And how did you develop the processes? Because जैसे आपने कहा पाकिस्तान में तो कुछ भी नहीं था. So did you got like कोई बाहर से processes कुछ थोड़े से, या was it like brainstorming on the?
मैं इसमें ना 2 चीज़ें कहूँगा and important for people to understand, right, how they should think about their business. One is we used to go to the property portal conference. Sometimes we would present there. Other times we just go and learn from people. And a few portal, I remember there was a portal Viva Real in Dubai, in Brazil. They had a similar issue where they had to collect listings. So that's where we picked up. Okay, we have to build a separate team. We used to call them riders, and they have to bring in these listings. And your commission, whatever your sales agent is getting, is a function of getting the sale plus the listings, right? So it's not a function of just sales. So some things you pick up. होता क्या है, अमूमन हम लोग conferences में जाते हैं, we pick up stuff, because my philosophy goes around you build strategy or you learn strategy, then you implement it, and then you track, monitor, and you try to get results, right? हम लोग लर्न तक तो काफ़ी लोग कर लेते हैं जी, कुछ लोग इम्प्लीमेंट करते हैं, बट इम्प्लीमेंट करने के बाद दे थिंक इट्स ऑटोमेशन, एंड इट्स नेवर ऑटोमेशन, राइट? दैट्स वेयर द रियल वर्क स्टार्ट्स. यू हैव टू ensure, push hard to make sure that it converts into a specific result that you're trying to achieve. And if it's not, then you're doing something wrong in between. So कुछ आपको do attend these conferences, go online. अब तो खैर बहुत online भी हो गया, so you can pick up information. And the other thing is, there is no copy paste in life. ये हम लोग अमूमन मिस्टेक करते हैं, even our startups, that okay, this is an idea, I'm going to copy it, I'm just going to paste it and see what's out. Market dynamics, मतलब आप अपने पाकिस्तान में देख लें. पाकिस्तान में आप अगर पाकिस्तान को कंपेयर कर लें यूके से, या पाकिस्तान को कंपेयर कर लें यूएसए से, या कोई और कंट्री से यूरोप में, यहाँ पे आपके 100 से ज़्यादा कल्चर्स हैं, राइट? लैंग्वेजेस आपकी इतनी ज़्यादा हैं, एंड द डायनामिक्स दैट अप्लाई इन सिंध आर वेरी डिफरेंट टू व्हाट यू गोना लर्न इन पंजाब. इवन टू द एक्सटेंट कि शुरू में हमारी टेली सेल्स टीम थी, वो जब कराची जाती थी वो कहते थे यार हमने पंजाबी, आप आ गए हो, यहाँ पे कौन है, राइट? सो अगर हम कहते नहीं, एंड इनिशियली वी लर्नड दैट इन यूरोप 80% of the sales were done on phone, so it was telesales. आज भी ऐसे है. So the direction that came, so you learn to some extent. So the direction that came, from our founder was कि अच्छा जी आप telesales को build करें और telesales के through काम करें, right? That's more cost effective. The ground reality was that we have to put people on the ground, and they want to see faces, lack of trust. You come in, you say मैं आपको पैकेज बेच रहा हूँ, आप मुझे 50,000 रुपये दे दें, तो यार ये पैसे लेके भाग जाएगा, राइट? So we had to build that trust through people on the ground. So what my message here is that it's you learn, and then you look at the ground reality, and then you tweak your strategy to the extent that it makes sense as far as the ground reality is supporting you. Don't build a business or anything in life which is not coherent with what's happening on the ground. So ये वो gap रह जाता है often thought में. We think यार वहाँ चल रहा है तो यहाँ पे नहीं चलेगा, यहाँ पे इससे नहीं चलता क्योंकि जिसके साथ चलाना है उसको समझ नहीं आ रही. So that's what we learned over time.
और बीच में so you started in 2006 से onward, 10, 11, 12 तक I think operations आपके. So what was the point where you think yeah this is now like एक वो sort of peak आना शुरू हुआ, because उस टाइम तक जैसे आपने कहा 3G 4G अभी तक internet is not still like
not at par with probably Pakistan is ranked really low.
But what was the time कि you feel like कि यार I think this will work, or like we have a potential to go unicorn, or
नहीं देखिए you're chasing the wrong kind of a goal, right? So if you're thinking I'm going to go unicorn and I want to work towards that, then that's the wrong philosophy, right? You need to have we never gave that too much thought, right? कि अच्छा हम यूनिकॉर्न कब बनेंगे और कैसे बनेंगे, क्या बनेंगे, या क्या गोल अकम्प्लिश करेंगे, या आगे की जर्नी क्या है. Our focus was you need to have a shorter milestones, right? month on month goals क्या हैं, आपके month on month targets क्या हैं. Your business plan कहने के लिए तो बड़ा अच्छा होता है, लेकिन do you truly follow that? And do you ensure that I'm not going to miss any of the KPIs and the numbers in there? So we used to have an yearly business plan. इतनी एजेंसीज लेके आनी है, इतनी लिस्टिंग्स लेके आनी है, इतना रेवेन्यू लेके आना है, और उसको एंड स्टे अहेड ऑफ द गेम. एंड देन योर बैटल इज ऑन मल्टीपल फ्रंट्स. Don't just pick up one battle कि मैं ये कर लूँगा. I've seen this, right? I've seen with portals which started in different countries, much better, stronger countries economically, and they couldn't figure it out and they collapsed. And the reason was because they got one part of the problem solved. 10,000 agencies लेके आए, revenue नहीं है. आप उस टाइम पे monetize करेंगे तो then you are probably in a ditch already, right? मोनेटाइज कर लिया, लेकिन एजेंसीज़ की लिस्टिंग्स को सही तरह मैनेज नहीं किया, आपने अनलिमिटेड पैकेजेस दे दिए. व्हेन competition came here, Lamudi came here and OLX as well, we were having a laugh because they were giving unlimited packages. So what happens is one agency which goes online is going to put 10,000 ads versus the rest of them which are putting 5 ads, 10 ads, and takes away the chunk of the leads. How do you grow a business that way, right? So these things. So we were always focused on the fundamentals. As I said, ground reality, fundamentals, tweaking the business model and making sure that we do the right kind of stuff on the ground. And alhamdulillah, we never missed our business plan targets and numbers, right? So that was the focus. It was a year-on-year goal. And one thing that I would give credit to, the early investors slash Zeel, जब शुरू में आए थे, he did teach us that never forget revenue, right? आज भी आप देखें, अब जो क्लाइमेट है इस वक्त, राइट, वीसी का, स्टार्टअप्स का, राइट, आज से अगर आप एक साल पहले चले जाएं, it was all about growth. Nobody cared about revenue. For us, revenue was the most important metric, and everything else came after that. If you're going to make money, then only you're going to survive, right? And ठीक है, आप लॉस मेकिंग है, आप नेगेटिव चल रहे हैं, आपका बिडा नहीं निकल रहा, आपका मार्जिन्स लो हैं, but at least you're pushing for revenue growth non-stop. And in an organic manner. Obviously it took us a long time, right? It wasn't like 2 सालों में. देखिए ये जो philosophy है ना, ये ख़त्म हो गई. अब ख़त्म हो गई है कि मैं 2 सालों में business start करूँगा, unicorn बन जाऊँगा, and that's it, and I'll sell it to somebody else and I'll take my exit. It's not going to happen anymore. हो गया, जिसका लग गया, जिसने कर लिया. So it took us a long time to build this up. We started in 2010 effectively. Now we're sitting in 22, and it took us good 6 to 7 years with the right kind of strategy, building up the right kind of teams. Most of our people, management layer, may have been with us for a long time. They've grown with the company as somewhat founders, then I would say managers, right? And they've seen this journey, right? So वो बड़ा important है आपका कि make them part of it. We are very transparent with our thought process. 90% of the companies out here wouldn't even share their P&Ls with people. Our people, we have P&L down to the bottom के एक receptionist का P&L क्या है. We build vertical P&Ls. And these guys were learning this. Okay, this person has a cost. What is that cost to my business? And how can I either cover that cost, or maybe that person is not effective for me? So ये चीज़ें over time build हुई, शुरू में नहीं, but as we were learning, we kept building these fundamentals.
Also, was there any time कि मतलब उसमें आपने सोचा हो कि like the most difficult time in the last sort of 1 decade or something?
अभी है right? I would say so strongly, right? The climate we have at the moment is probably the most difficult I've seen in the last 10 years, right? But yes, we've had our difficult times, I would say. जब आपके धरने हो जाते हैं, एक पूरा region आपका बंद पड़ा हुआ है, how are you supposed to get revenue out? COVID was kind of more fear than actually what happened. I think the government did take right steps to make sure that they didn't actually go on a track of what's happening in China. But मैं आपको बड़ी honestly बात करूँगा, and I'm not trying to say that this is we are so special or anything. We're just normal, humble people. But we're so used to facing issues here. Be it आपका एक दिन पूरा इंटरनेट नहीं आएगा, राइट, टू द पॉइंट आपकी वेबसाइट्स डाउन पड़ी हुई हैं, टू द पॉइंट दैट आप ऑफिस नहीं जा सकते, राइट, एंड कोविड इटसेल्फ, राइट, बट आवर पीपल नो, दे ऑलवेज हैव बीन टॉट एंड दे नो दिस दैट वी हैव टू बी ऑन द ग्राउंड, वी हैव टू मेक श्योर वी हैव टू गेट आउट एंड डू द बेस्ट वी कैन. सो अल्लाह का शुक्र है जी. एंड वी प्रोबेबली, आई थिंक वन अदर थिंग वी स्ट्रांगली डू इज़ वी फोरकास्ट, राइट, एंड वी प्रीएम्प्ट. So we don't wait. As an example, अगर मैं आजकल की बात करूँ, is Pakistan in a state of default, or are we going to default at any point in time, or the economy is ever going to recover? And if you don't plan for this today, then when that moment comes in,
True.
you're going to crash, right? So we plan accordingly, right? When are we going to put our feet on the throttle and when are we going to lift it up, and making sure that आपके और हमारे fundamentals या हमारे जो key metrics होते हैं जिनको monitor कर रहे होते हैं वो भी साथ साथ evolve कर रहे होते हैं, right? So as an example, you're looking at average revenue, what is coming from a team, and then you pivot, then we change that to okay, what is the productivity of that team, because average revenue, अगर आप example आपको दे रहा हूँ, अगर 5 लोग काम कर रहे हैं, 5 लोगों का revenue क्या चल रहा है, versus my focus should be on कि वो अगर एवरेज रेवेन्यू आपका अच्छा आ रहा है तो उसमें से शायद 2 काम ही नहीं कर रहे, वर्सेस द प्रोडक्टिविटी. एंड आज तो ग्लोबल क्लाइमेट यही है कि ऑल द बिजनेसेस फ्रॉम फेसबुक टू गूगल टू अमेजोन टू ऑल द बिग वंस आर सेइंग द की एरिया वी नीड टू फोकस ऑन इज प्रोडक्टिविटी. दिस इज हैपेंड इन द वेस्ट एज वेल. पीपल हैव गॉटन इट ईजी इन द लास्ट फ्यू ईयर्स, राइट? सो द क्लाइमेट तो आपका it's just if you're preempting, you don't find it so difficult, but yes, you waste time in the sense that progressive growth nahi hai, constructive nahi hai, rather you're focusing on something which is not going to get results and you're preparing yourself for that. So I mean, it's not result driven oriented kind of approach, and that's the irony here, right? The problem bahut masla hai.
But generally जब आपकी गवर्नमेंट में भी ज़ाहिर है मीटिंग्स होती होंगी, बात होती होगी सीनियर ऑफिशियल से, हर किसी से, what do you think, like how they are thinking in terms of business? मतलब बहुत से ममालिक हैं ऐसे कि जहाँ political turmoil तो चल रहा होता है, but businesses शायद इतने ज़्यादा इफेक्ट नहीं होते जितना है, मतलब there is a clear boundary, but यहाँ obviously everything is connected with that, like through investment से लेके अभी पीछे companies बंद हुई, बहुत से venture capitalists like वापस चले गए हैं, obviously I don't know कितने अरसे में will recover. So what are they thinking?
देखिए, most of the people who are calling the shots, right, and any government that may be, are more focused on the business approach that exists on the ground, right? And they keep working with the positive intent. Many लोगों की नीयत ख़राब होती है to solve problems for such people on the ground. अब जो बिज़नेस माइंडसेट पाकिस्तान में टिपिकली रहा है वो बहुत इंस्टीट्यूशनल नहीं है, राइट? हमारे सेक्टर में तो बहुत कम है, बट जनरली स्पीकिंग इतना नहीं है. इट्स मोर ऑफ अ फैमिली ड्रिवन काइंड ऑफ अ बिजनेस मेंटालिटी एंड नॉट ड्रिवन बाय रेजिंग कैपिटल एज सच. अब लास्ट 1-2 सालों में मैं देखा था 10 स्टार्टअप्स, राइट, प्रैक्टिकली. सो when you try to support such a business, your mindset is going to be, okay, I'm going to build my policies and structures around supporting these guys, trade unions and all of that, and your federations and all, जहाँ पे आप जाके बैठ के काम कर होते हैं. And that's where the missing gap is, because the FDI that we need to bring in, which was coming in the last 2 years, अब evaporate कर गई है, right? Global climate भी है, but local भी हमारी uncertainty है. उस पर progressive काम शायद recently अब ज़्यादा होना शुरू हुआ था, which should have started probably years ago, right? When we did our first raise, that was the time when the world was changing and it was more global. Now it's more local, right? So तो उस लिहाज से कुछ policies आई हैं, slow आई हैं, right? And the initiatives haven't been so forthcoming in terms of putting more momentum to the whole game. But we do connect. हमने LDA के अंदर काफ़ी काम किया, बायलॉज बेहतर कराए वर्टिकल करने के लिए. We kept giving them suggestions. हमने दूसरे इदारों के साथ भी आगे पीछे जहाँ हम अपने फीडबैक दे सकते हैं. दिस इज़ गोना SECP के साथ अभी फ्रैक्शनलाइजेशन पे हमारी डिस्कशन चल रही है, हाउ दैट कैन बी स्टक. तो इस तरह की चीज़ें हम जहाँ हेल्प कर सकते हैं, वी डू कीप प्लेइंग आवर पार्ट. But sometimes it does get difficult because the message that needs to be delivered. मैं आपको simple example देता हूँ. The national organizations actually come forth in all the Western countries and they invest in startups.
Yeah.
ठीक है जी, आपने देखा है likes of security agencies investing in the likes of Facebook, and CIA has invested, and so these companies come in and they help their businesses. यहाँ पे वो फ्लेवर मैंने इतना ज़्यादा नहीं देखा, right? So if we're going to raise all the capital from abroad, एंड अब आए थे कुछ फंड्स लोकल, पर वो भी प्राइवेट सेक्टर में. तो गवर्नमेंट की सपोर्ट है कि जी कामयाब जवान प्रोग्राम बना दें, या हम कोई और इंक्यूबेशन सेंटर्स कम है, राइट? बट उसमें गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से कितनी सपोर्ट आ रही है टूवर्ड्स हेल्पिंग दी स्टार्टअप्स. दैट्स द ओनली वे यू कैन कीप योर स्टार्टअप्स विद इन पाकिस्तान रादर देन रेज. द मोर कैपिटल यू रेज फ्रॉम अब्रॉड, the more dependent are you on the international community, and the more you're going to keep raising, and eventually the business is just it's like you do not even majority, right? So how do we retain this within Pakistan? That's where the government or any other organization has to come forth, set up a fund and start supporting the local businesses, especially in this climate. कोई फंडिंग नहीं आ रही बाहर से, स्टार्टअप्स बंद कर दें. There's so much talent, you know it, आपकी बातचीत होती है. There's so much material, Can we actually build up a support mechanism for them to sustain this period? We need rupees. We don't need dollars, right?
Yeah.
You know, why do we go after dollars? $1 million raise हो गए, $1 million raise हो गए, because we don't have a choice. So that's
But what do you think about ये जो पूरा गवर्नमेंट का, जैसे आपने कहा सपोर्ट है, फिलहाल तो इंक्यूबेशन सेंटर्स ही हैं, कुछ प्राइवेट इंक्यूबेशन सेंटर्स हैं, कुछ जो फंड्स पाकिस्तानीज़ ने बनाए हैं वो भी टेक्निकली पैसे बाहर से ही आई थिंक उन VCs के डर
हैं, कुछ इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट भी हैं जिन्होंने अच्छे फंड्स बनाए हुए हैं जो अपने वेल्थ को उस तरफ लेके जा रहे हैं, राइट? तो दे इन्वेस्टिंग, बट यस,
लेकिन जनरली अभी तक हमने उन इंक्यूबेशन से या जो को वर्किंग स्पेसेस आप कह रहे हैं, या पूरा जो इकोसिस्टम है, उस तरह की कंपनीज़ हम नहीं देख रहे हैं. मतलब जो कंपनीज़ बनी भी हैं पिछले 5-8 साल में बड़ी, वो दे स्टार्टेड ऑन देयर ओन, खुद से शुरू हुए. अब ज़रा वो एक लोगों का लॉजिक ये भी होता है कि जी अभी तो मैंने शुरू की है, अभी तो हम प्रोडक्ट बना रहे हैं, ये कर रहे हैं. बट ज़रा इट्स अ डिजिटल दौर, यू डोंट नीड लाइक 8 to 10 years कि आप
हाँ, you can pace it up.
सो अभी आई थिंक मुझे पर्सनली ये लगता है कि वो एक बड़ा वो कूल और सेक्सी सा भी बन गया है टू बीइंग एन एंटरप्रेन्योर. आप यूनी से निकले हैं तो एज अ गैप ईयर आपने जाके बस थोड़ा सा वहाँ पूल कर रहे हैं, ये कर रहे हैं, थोड़ा खेल कूद रहे हैं.
Okay, Talha, nothing wrong with that thought, as long as you have a good structured approach of going about it, and where the incubators can play a bigger part or try to play a part. But I guess हमारे यहाँ पे शुरू में ज़्यादा था, अब शायद थोड़ा सा बेहतर हुआ है. We are too focused on the product itself. एंड आप कोई भी किताब उठा के देख लें हो तो इट्स ऑलवेज अबाउट बैकबोन क्या है किसी भी कंपनी की. आई हैव बीन टू 1 or 2 टॉक्स देयर एंड यू आस्क द स्टूडेंट्स और पीपल, स्टार्टअप्स, यंग एंटरप्रेन्योर्स, आप पूछते हैं उनसे कि यार आप पैसा आएगा तो करोगे क्या? सो मोस्ट ऑफ देम आंसर आई विल स्पेंड मोस्ट ऑफ इट ऑन माई प्रोडक्ट एंड देन आई एम गोना डू मार्केटिंग. हार्डली पीपल टॉक अबाउट सेल्स. एंड द बैकबोन ऑफ एनी कंपनी, सालों से देखते हैं, हिस्ट्री में चले जाएँ या अभी की बात कर लें, इज़ योर सेल्स यूनिट. इफ़ यू गोना ब्रिंग इन रेवेन्यू, बट आई सी दिस, मतलब खैर थोड़े और गैप्स भी होते हैं, मार्केट की पेनिट्रेशन या साइजिंग के अंदर भी गैप्स होते हैं, योर ट्रू पोटेंशियल के अंदर गैप्स होते हैं. वी यूज़ एस्टिमेशंस, कोई नहीं, आप वो भी कर लें, बट दैट्स योर प्लानिंग, राइट? प्लानिंग इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, बट एंड दैट्स वेयर द गैप्स एंड दैट्स वेयर द रेवेन्यूज डोंट कम इन. And because the global climate was, who cares about revenue? Just get growth. Revenue आपका आता रहेगा, right? And that's a big problem, right? We didn't do that, but it took us a longer time. Because आज अब it's all about cash. It's not about margins anymore, right? It's about cash. You have cash, right? Margins ही आएगा cash, but I'm talking negative margins पे आप business नहीं कर सकते, right? So I think that's where we need more focus.
और सही आपको लगता है कि mentorship की भी उस तरह कमी है बहुत ज़्यादा?
I would say so because बहुत कम लोग हैं जिन्होंने एक्चुअली ट्रू सेंस में यहाँ पे बिजनेस को उस लेवल पे ग्रो किया है, राइट? एंड द चैलेंज इज एक्चुअली टेक यू डाउन. द काइंड ऑफ फायर फाइटिंग दैट यू हैव टू डू हियर is enormous, right? And there's no support structure. So I guess you start small, you're not highlighted. आप कुछ अच्छा काम करते हैं. As you start growing big, the vultures come after you, right? ये भी सही नहीं, वो भी सही नहीं, वो भी सही नहीं, and there is no support structure on at that point in time, or the kind of support that you need to overcome that. But I guess मैंने आपको बताया टैलेंट है, सिर्फ नर्चरिंग और डायरेक्शन की ज़रूरत है. एंड कुछ हैं, मतलब अब कुछ अच्छे स्टार्टअप्स बीच में अभी भी बहुत अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं. इट्स नॉट लाइक ऑल डन एंड डस्टेड, एंड वी विल सी अ फ्यू रॉक स्टार्स कमिंग अप इंशाल्लाह, बट इट्स गोना टेक टाइम. वी जस्ट नीड, एंड इन दिस क्लाइमेट इट्स गोना टेक अ लॉन्गर टाइम. तो एंड इट्स गुड फॉर द इंडस्ट्री. आई हैव ऑलवेज बीन वेरी होपफुल के अच्छे लोग निकले, बिकॉज इट्स नॉट अबाउट के एक या दो ऊपर आपके शाइनिंग स्टार्स बैठे हुए हैं और नीचे कुछ भी नहीं है. दैट डजंट हेल्प द ग्लोबल एनवायरनमेंट. दैट डजंट हेल्प पाकिस्तान इन अ वे कि आप कहते हैं मैंने अभी इंडिया के अंदर, आपको भी पता है IPOs इंडिया के अंदर हो रहे हैं. दे आर रिटेनिंग देयर कैश एंड वेल्थ, राइट? सो दैट मीन्स द वेल्थ जनरेशन इज कमिंग इन विद इन द कंट्री, राइट? So we need more and more players coming up. Ecosystem strong होएगा, कुछ अच्छे players आएंगे आपके, and then that means we Pakistan as a country becomes stronger. More investment will come in. And please, ये बड़ा ज़रूरी message है सबको कि there are no shortcuts, right? You guys, there are no shortcuts. Right?
And that's what I wanted to ask. What would be your advice for anyone, not just who is starting, but let's say 2-3 साल हो गए हैं, or like to continue to grow for the looking after the next sort of 10 years? What are the top things you think they should sort of think about?
When you make your business plans, right, तो often आप किसी भी VC के पास जाएंगे या फंड के पास, they would ask you for the 5-year horizon, के 5 साल का horizon दे दें. But when they're looking at your plans, they're practically focusing on the first year, maybe a little bit on the second year, but not beyond that. And every year when you come back to your business plan, it will keep evolving and changing. तो ये सबको पता है जो बिज़नेस में स्टार्टअप्स में क्या मैंने काम किया एक साल बाद, क्या मेरा पिछले साल का प्लान जो मैंने बनाया सेकंड ईयर का सेम है, इट विल चेंज. If you're going showing good numbers, so I will probably show you better growth. And if you're struggling, then you revise it, you tweak it, and whatever. You even pivot. Maybe उसमें से 2 streams आपकी होंगी नहीं आगे. So 10 years पे अगर आप horizon देख रहे हैं ना, yes, you're right. आपने 10 years का अच्छा किया कि you think long term, don't think short term, right? There is no shortcut, as I said. And then make short term plans. Achieve your first year growth or 6 months growth, and go after that, and try to go deep into it, right? Try to go micro, especially for the CEOs. Try to stay micro, go deep, and try to figure out where the gap is. And if you can do that strongly, then you have, वो कहते हैं ना फैमिली बिजनेस में भी पहले बच्चे को फैक्ट्री में लगाते हैं, खुद से काम करो. आपने पाकिस्तान में जिस दिन खुद से काम करना छोड़ा, उस दिन your business will start going down, right? Because the climate and the dynamics are changing globally, locally, everywhere. They're changing at all the times, right? So you need to stay deep, understand, and evolve, keep evolving. But don't miss your goals. We often say, अच्छा ये हो गया, चलो कुछ नहीं होता, हम बाद में cover up कर लेंगे. For me, that's a death sentence, right? Then that means you are in for it. So and आप 50 KPIs पे और 50 जगहों पे फोकस करने की कोशिश मत करें. Simplify the model. Yet it could be very complex, but have simple basic KPIs that you want to track, and then track them. रात को सोते हुए ख्वाब में भी आपको वो आने चाहिए, सुबह उठ के भी वो आने चाहिए, और अगर वो नहीं पूरे हो रहे तो then try to figure out कि कहाँ पे गैप है. Don't complicate things, right, unnecessarily.
Because वो आपने पहले जैसे कहा ना कि बहुत से लोग हैं, personally sometimes I also think, I think now I am also thinking quite sort of deeply कि आप जैसे बड़े होंगे चलो मैं ना थोड़ा सा सुकून आ जाएगा, but I think the more you grow, the more micro in a way.
अच्छा ये तला हमारे कल्चर में है, राइट? मैं आपको थोड़ी सी 1-2 अगर कल्चर की बातें करूँ, राइट? सो व्हेन वी केम हियर, आई रिमेंबर मी एंड माय ब्रदर इरमान, वी वर सेटिंग अप आवर ऑफिस. तो हम एक LG के स्टोर पे गए, हमने उनसे कहा यार आप हमें ये 4 ACs दे दें, ये दे दें. तो बंदा मुझे देख रहा है, यंग, राइट, प्रॉब्ली mid-20s. तो बंदा देख रहा है, तो बंदा देख के कहता है जी, हमने कहा ये 4 ACs आप दे दें, पैक कर दे, इसका ऑर्डर बना देना. तो देख रहा है हमें, अच्छा आपने कॉल नहीं करना? मैंने कहा क्या मतलब कॉल नहीं करना? कहता है आपने किसी बड़े को, वालिद साहब को कॉल नहीं करना? आपको कैसे देते हैं, राइट? वी लुक यंगर देन व्हाट वी. एंड प्रॉब्लम है कि उसकी सोच और कल्चर में ये है कि ये कैसे फैसला कर सकता है. एंड आवर डिसीजन मेकिंग कैपेबिलिटी इज सो वीक जनरली. वी आर नॉट टॉट, वी आर नॉट, एंड द फैमिली सिस्टम्स वी हैव, we are not even allowed. Taught तो बहुत दूर की बात है. So when we come into real life, what is our life about?
Wow.
What do we do in life, right? If you can't take decisions on all fronts, personal, family life or work, you will fail. आप कैसे आगे success achieve करेंगे? और the more you grow, the more decisions you have to take.
Yeah.
Now tell me, आपसे मैं सवाल करता हूँ कि आपने एक फैसला करना भी बैठे बैठे and you are not even informed.
Yeah.
So how can you shy away and run away from your responsibility, lock yourself in a room and just delegate, where you're not even informed?
True.
And then you have to take these decisions for the betterment of the business. Then what? Then we see the fall of all the big tycoons and the global leaders that haven't done that. Even Hitler, that's what happened to him. His 4 generals kept feeding him and he started taking decisions sitting in the room. So होता ही आपने सही फैसले लेने हैं, और वो फैसले लेने के लिए आपको साथ काम करता है. एंड देन जस्ट इमेजिन एज यू ग्रो अप, आप द मटीरियल यू हैव, द थॉट प्रोसेस यू हैव, व्हाट you've learned on 10 fronts, and you're hiring people and you expect them they learn that over time. नहीं, उनको फ़ौरन तो नहीं आएगा. So you can probably nurture them and pace their growth. And over time होता ही है. एक्चुअली देखें, रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी मैट्रिक्स चेंज हो जाता है आपका, राइट? एंड दिस इज व्हाट पीपल फेल टू अंडरस्टैंड. आई एम नॉट सेइंग कि आप सड़क पे बैठे हों. आई मीन एट माई लेवल, आई एम नॉट सेइंग कि मैं जाके किसी एजेंसी के दफ्तर में बैठा हूँ और डील क्लोज करा रहा हूँ, देख रहा हूँ. आफ्टर अ सर्टन लेवल ऑफ ग्रोथ, when VCs come in, what do they want to look at? They want to look at your team. After a certain level of growth, you have changed into a leader, and the leader needs to build more leaders, right? What you've learned, you need to transpire that into people, and then they need to deploy that. And if you're not able to do that, and you're not able to create leaders within your organization, तो फिर आपका scale नहीं increase हो सकता, right? And then you can't scale up. then the business going down. But your responsibility has changed, but you have to do 10 times more work with your people to help them grow and take decisions. तो ये gaps हैं यहाँ पे जो वो लोग अपनी मर्जी से शादी नहीं कर सकते एज एन एग्जाम्पल. तो ये किसने फैसला करना चाहिए? ज़िंदगी आपकी, फ्यूचर आपका, फैसला किसी और का. हमारे पास अभी कम हो गया, लेकिन होता है, लोग आते हैं ऑफिस में, दे अप्लाई फॉर जॉब्स और कहते हैं जी मैं वालिद साहब से पूछ लूँ. मैं कहा नहीं यार, वालिद साहब से पूछता तो वालिद साहब वो नौकरी के लिए अप्लाई करें और आप घर पर बैठो. राइट, we need to change our culture somehow, and the education and how we बाहर बच्चों को बाहर क्यों निकाल देते हैं? ए लेवल्स में वो काम कर रहे होते हैं, बच्चों को बाहर निकाल देते हैं सो दैट जाओ फेस द वर्ल्ड.
डिसीजन मेकिंग, आई थिंक
पावर एनेबलमेंट वो नहीं होती. तो ये काफ़ी इश्यूज हैं, and that's why the bigger problem in Pakistan is we have a lot of talent, but we have these basic attributes missing at times. And then when you come to real life, then we look around all the time. ठीक है, आपने mentorship लेनी है, but mentorship भी आपने select करनी है ना. अब there's इंटेलिजेंस के जो डॉक्यूमेंट्स आप पढ़ें, ख़ासतौर वेस्ट के, तो उसके अंदर एक प्लेबुक होती है कि हाउ टू डिस्ट्रॉय अ कंपनी. राइट, नाउ दिस इज़ इन द फैक्ट बुक्स, राइट, जो उनकी, एंड हाउ टू डिस्ट्रॉय अ कंपनी, एंड दे से दैट फॉर्म कमिटीज़ more than 5 people so that decision making doesn't happen. Right? अब आप खुद से फैसला करने के काबिल नहीं है, आपके पास कलीग्स नहीं है, थिंक टैंक नहीं है आपका. I often ask my head, who is your think tank? That's my first question. आप think tank क्या आपका, किसके साथ बैठ के सोच रहे हो? अगर वो think tank नहीं बनाया, then that's your starting, that's your beginning to failure, right? तो ये बेसिक चीज़ें हैं जिस पे फोकस करना होता है. सो जॉब इंक्रीजेस, बट यू हैव टू बिल्ड मोर लीडर्स, एंड that's what you intend to do.
How hopeful are you for the future? Like असल में, not just like a motivation.
मैं आपको कहने लगा था, do we have a choice, right? If you're not hopeful, then you are 6 feet under the ground, right? But
कल बल्कि मुझे कोई कह रहा था कि पाकिस्तान में आपको रहना है तो आपको ऑप्टिमिस्टिक होना है, मतलब उसके बगैर there is no other option.
ऑप्टिमिस्टिक भी होना है, होपफुल भी होना है और रियलिस्टिक भी होना है. ऑप्टिमिज्म which is disconnected from ground reality, I keep coming back to that, right? It's not going to work out. But you're right, you don't have a choice. As human beings, we don't have a choice, right? So choice is what? चले, मैं कहता हूँ हम optimistic नहीं है मुल्क के बारे में या इकोनॉमी के बारे में. So what choices do we have?
True.
That's a question we need to ask ourselves. Do we leave the country? That's a choice. Then do that. Don't stay here. Don't show me your face. Don't tell me यार ये हो गया वो हो गया. Then go. अभी काफ़ी बार हमारे से होता है, एक्सपर्ट्स आते हैं यार पाकिस्तान में ये नहीं है वो नहीं है, तो मैं उनसे ये कहता हूँ आप आ जाएँ, आके हमारी हेल्प कर दें. हाँ नहीं है, हमें भी पता है नहीं है, हम कोशिश कर रहे हैं, एटलीस्ट कोशिश करें, आप आ जाएँ. अगर आपको इतना लव लॉस्ट है, सिर्फ प्रॉपर्टी ना खरीदें ना, फिर आके इसको सॉर्ट आउट भी कर दें. सो ऑप्टिमिज्म एंड बीइंग होपफुल इज़ बाय डिफ़ॉल्ट इज़ पार्ट ऑफ माई नेचर, एंड वी हैव टू स्टे. एंड इन रियलिस्टिक टर्म्स अगर हम बात करें, वी आर इन वेरी डिफ़िकल्ट टाइम्स, बट 200 मिलियन लोग गायब नहीं होने वाले ओवरनाइट. एज ए मैसिव पॉपुलेशन, there are opportunities even in state of default. It depends how you look at it, because when you default, you can export more, your production can go up, right? You are the best place to put manufacturing in, because आपकी चीज़ें सस्ती आ रही हैं वहाँ से. Now are you going to look at it that way, or are you going to say default हो गया, चलो जी भागें, यहाँ मुल्क से बाहर भाग जाएँ, ये वो. तो मुल्क से बाहर भागना है तो फिर 200 मिलियन लोग मुल्क से बाहर भाग जाते हैं जी, और मुल्क को शट डाउन करके बैठ जाते हैं. So that's not. So it's how you look at problems and how you solve them, and do plan. अमूमन rather than, देखिए वो होता है, मैं आपको अभी क्योंकि पाकिस्तान के 1 साल के अंदर पाकिस्तान की इकोनॉमी को सही कर दें तो कोई भी नहीं कर सकता. All promises are to be broken if anyone says कि मैं 1 साल में सही कर दूंगा. बट 1 साल में अगर मैं अपना गोल बनाता हूँ कि 20% अचीव करूँगा, और उन गोल्स को मैं थोड़ा थोड़ा तोड़ के देख लूँ कि मैंने इसमें से तो टॉप 3 गोल्स क्या हैं, मैं गोल सेटिंग अच्छी तरह कर लूँ, and then I try to achieve those 3 goals, forget about what is going to be the outcome. तो अगर आप 20% भी अचीव करते हैं तो that's optimism, right? rolling forward, rather than looking at यार अच्छा ये तो हो ही नहीं सकता, ये प्रॉब्लम इतनी बड़ी हो गई है, okay let's run away, right? And we often have that kind of an attitude. So I'm pretty hopeful. इंशाल्लाह जी देखें, हमारे अपने सेक्टर के हवाले से भी there is still movement in the market. There's still a huge shortage of household. आपकी वो हर साल इंक्रीज हो रही है, so supply and demand में तो clear business equation है. The more developers we can come in and take part in the market, the better it's going to be for the market. And we are a resilient nation, inshallah. And I'm not saying just for the sake of it, क्योंकि we often hear this कि ठीक हो जाएगा, but ठीक करने के लिए we need to build up a very strong plan how this is going to be done. And then with the right thought process, with the right intention, we'll get somewhere. If not, at the end of the tunnel.
Thank you so much, Zeeshan bhai. I think it was a very sort of एक mentorship session हो गया sort of.
Thank you.
So we'll come again inshallah, and thank you so much for the time and doing the great work for the country which you guys are doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Talha, for giving me the opportunity, and wish you all the best. We together we have to make this nation strong.
Inshallah.
And what you're doing, I really commend you. जिस तरह आप लोगों का traction रही है, and the kind of subscriber base that you've built in such a short time. So I think you are the next one to look out for. Inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.